Thank you and good evening. It's lovely to see so many of you here tonight. And I'm delighted to welcome back Bay Echo teams to give a presentation for our Parent Ed group. Parent Ed is very important at Lynbrook. We like to have as good a partnership with our parents as we can. Students are also welcome to come along to these presentations, but we understand that often they're very busy with homework because they're Lynbrook students. But I'm delighted, this is our first presentation of the year. We have two further presentations in 2012, one in November and one in December, so I hope that many of you will be able to come back to those and tell friends. Please, anyone is welcome. You don't have to be a parent of a Lynbrook student. We welcome anybody from the community to come to these presentations. So too loud? Oh, I'm so sorry. I'm still not used to that. I still sometimes approach people in grocery stores saying, "Is everything okay?" And then I realise that they're on the phone. So I would now like to introduce Mrs. Gail Davidson, who is a wonderful partner with the PTSA and obviously our beloved principal here at Lynbrook.
Thank you all for coming this evening. I'm Gail Davidson. I'm the principal. Could I just get a show of hands? How many are Lynbrook parents or students? How many are parents or students of other high schools? Good. Well, welcome to Lynbrook. And how about parents or students of not yet high school students? Okay. So I'm sure this evening will be a wonderful evening. Just to give you a little background and context for it, 2 years ago when we went through our accreditation process, we actually developed 3 school goals. And one of the goals was to partner with parents and students to help develop strategies so that our students could manage stress and build resilience. And part of that was a study group that we formed 2 years ago that had students and parents and staff on. And at that time, I met Peter Tang. And Peter, of course, was part of the founding group of this wonderful group that's going to be presenting tonight, which is Bay Echo. And at that time, there was a lot of discussion about the importance of communication. And what I found in having Bay Echo come, which is a student-run organization, having them come and present here has been very eye-opening to me. It's been a parent education. It's been a principal education. Okay, because I think it's wonderful when we really do partner with our students and we hear their perspective. That's what certainly we're looking forward to. I want to recognize our 2 presidents, co-presidents of our PTSA that are here this evening. We have Kim Silverman and Jean Fajiki. And without further ado, as much as I know you like to listen to me, you really came to listen to Bay Echo, so I'm going to turn it over and to our MC for this evening.
Sorry, I forgot to introduce myself earlier. My name is Victor Wang, and I'm a junior at Lynbrook, and I'm your MC. So, some of you may be wondering, what is Bay Echo? Well, Bay Echo is an organization of teams, run by teams, striving to improve parent-teen communication. And how we do that is we present a series of presentations on topics that parents and teens don't really see eye to eye. So in our previous presentations, we received quite a few questions about the internet and video games and things like that. So we decided to create a brand new presentation just for this topic. Now, in order to do that, we created and sent out a survey to teens and parents in the Bay Area, asking them questions like, how much time you spend on the internet, or what websites do you go? And using the information from this survey, we put together this presentation that you're about to see. Now, I'd just like to mention that we'll have a short Q&A session at the end of the presentation, so please save your questions until then. I think we passed out note cards, so if you guys have any questions, you can write them down and save them. We also passed out some evaluation forms of our presentation, and we really love your feedback. So without any further ado, I'd like to introduce our first two presenters, Jennifer and Jerry.
Hi everybody, my name is Jennifer Jin. I'm a senior at Saratoga High School.
And I'm Jerry Wang, and I'm a senior here at Lindbergh.
And today we're going to be talking about the internet. So I'm sure many of you parents are asking, why is my teen always on the computer? Why is it every time I turn around and look at them, they're on the computer? Well, mainly it's because it's really fun and that there's so much that you can do on it, from homework to video games and to communicating with each other. So first of all, homework. I know personally I have a teacher who likes to assign like worksheets online, and she has us do them online, or you can take online quizzes, and then she'll get the results through her email, so it's a good way for her to keep track of us too. And you can also play video games, and later Nick and Jesse will be talking about that, so I won't go over it too much. And it's also a really good way to communicate with each other, because information over the internet travels so quickly, so you can send someone an email and 1 second later they'll receive it and they can reply back.
Alright, so when we surveyed teens and asked them what websites they go on most commonly, these are 4 of the most common results that we received. We got Facebook, Tumblr, Twitter, and YouTube. So Facebook, Tumblr, and Twitter are 3 sites known as social media sites where you share your information. On Facebook, you can create a profile about yourself, putting in your information about like your birthday or what you like. And you can also look at other people's profiles and look at their information. You can also share different photos, you can share news with each other, and it's a site only where you can share and connect with other people. On Tumblr is a site that is similar to YouTube, except it's less personal. You can also share things, but you can also with other people, but you can't provide as much. You can't provide content. You can only reblog or blog. That's the term used in Tumblr. And Twitter is a site that's also a site for sharing with other people, except you have little phrases known as tweets that are 140 characters or less. And you mainly share these tweets, you update your Twitter feed with these tweets, and you share these tweets with other people. And so you can read people's tweets, or you can tweet out tweets to your people who are following you. And finally, YouTube is a video sharing site where you can upload videos to the site, and people can watch the video and comment on them and express their likes or dislikes about the video. And so those are the 4 most common sites that we receive back. So YouTube is currently one of the most popular sites on the internet today. It has over 1 billion active users, which is really impressive about. And so why is Facebook so popular? One of the reasons why Facebook is so popular is because of the ability to have academic groups on the site. You can create sites. I know teachers create sites, and students also create sites for different classes that you can share information, you can ask questions about material, you can express, like any comments you have on the class curriculum or worksheets, or if you want to study for test with a classmate, then you can do so through Facebook or these academic groups. On Facebook, you can also stay in touch with friends. I have friends in Taiwan, I have friends in Arizona who I might not see on a day-to-day basis, obviously, because they live so far away. And so through Facebook, I'm able to keep in touch with them. I can talk to them online, or I can show them my photos of what I'm doing today, and stuff like that. On Facebook, you can also share and view photos, like I just said. And so what you can do is, if you take a picture of something, you can just plug your computer, a camera into your computer, and then you can upload the pictures onto the site, and you can show the pictures to other people. And the thing about Facebook is that it has become such a large storage of photos that there are probably more photos of me on Facebook than there are in my house. So that just goes to show that Facebook really has become a place for storing photos and for sharing photos. Finally, on Facebook, you can play games. I know there are like hundreds and thousands, maybe not thousands, hundreds of things available on Facebook. And I know back when I first made my Facebook back in 8th grade, I used to play a lot of Tetris on Facebook, and I guess I might still be popular, I'm not too sure, but it just shows that games are one of the most popular things that people do on Facebook.
Alright, so we surveyed some teens and we asked them, how do you spend your time on social media websites? And as you can see, all 100% of them said they chat with their friends or they interact with your friends. And I'm sure many of you all know that, teens are very social creatures. When we go to school, we don't only study, we spend a lot of our time hanging out with our friends, talking to them, going to dances with them. But it's not only for, social interaction. You can also discuss homework, as Jerry said, with academic groups, and you can also share photos and read the news and do many other things.
Alright, so when we asked teens how much time they spend on the internet and how that time was divided up, here are the results that we received. 2% of the students say that they use the internet for mainly academic reasons, 12% for more academic reasons, 29% for even, half and half, some academic, some non-academic. 36% of the students use the internet for more non-academic activities, and 16% of the students use the internet for mainly non-academic activities. So this graph shows that, while students do tend to use a computer for more non-academic activities, contrary to popular parent belief, teens are not always using the computer for non-academic activities, and they're also using the computer for academic purposes.
Alright, so next we surveyed teens, how much time do you spend on the internet? And as you can see, most of them said between 1 and 4 hours. So we asked the parents the exact same question, how much time do you think your teen spends on the internet? And most of the parents said between 2 and 5 hours. So as you can see, there's little communication problem, little disconnect. And I think that the main reason, or for me personally at least, is I leave the computer on in the background a lot of the times, or leave Facebook up, and whenever I have a question, I can chat with my friends and be like, oh, did you get the answer for this physics problem? How do you do it? Or I listen to YouTube online, have my earbuds in while doing my homework. So while some parents may think that, oh, you're on the computer, I'm not really on the computer necessarily all the time. Sometimes I just have it up in the background while I'm doing my homework. So next we asked the teens if you can limit the amount of time you spend online, and 53% of them said yes, they can, and very, very few of them said no. So that shows that teens, we can limit the amount of time we are in control of the amount of time we spend on computer, or instead of doing our work. So next we asked, does the internet affect our productivity? And most of them said a little bit to moderately. So although this may seem like it contradicts with their previous slide that they can limit your internet activity, it doesn't really. It's more really showing that we're capable of limiting it, but sometimes it's okay to go on the computer to take a little break and chat with our friends or do other stuff.
Alright, so as we internet is not without its drawbacks. 3 of the drawbacks of the internet are privacy, procrastination, and inappropriate content. As Angela and Emily will later present, there are privacy issues when using the internet. If you're putting your information out there, then there's always the chance that someone will be able to access it and use it for malicious purposes. So you need to be careful when you're using the internet so that there are no privacy problems. Procrastination is another issue that can arise from using the internet. By using the internet, because of all the things that you can do on the internet, all the things that you can do out there, there's always a chance that it will delay what you're trying to do, what you're trying to accomplish. For example, if you're trying to do homework and you go on the internet and you open up your browser and you get distracted and you start playing games or something, there's always that risk. And so when you're using the internet, you need to be able to control yourself so that that does not happen. Finally, inappropriate content is present on the internet. That's one of the things that is present, as Edie will later talk about. And so you need to be careful.
So although Jerry mentioned some drawbacks, there are benefits, and these benefits definitely outweigh these drawbacks. So first of all, it's a very good way to share and gain information Like for our school, we have this online database. I'm sure Lynbrook does, and many other schools do. And we have this online database, and a lot of my teachers encourage us to use it for, if I have a research project, or I need to look something up for my history class. And it's just very easily accessible and really easy to use, and I'm very thankful for it. And it's also a good way to learn about current events, because someone can upload a news story and the next second someone else can click on it and read it and go like, oh, that's what happened today. And it's also a good way to stay in touch with friends. I know Jerry mentioned earlier, he has friends in Arizona, in Taiwan that he stays in touch with. I have friends in New York that I like to talk to sometimes. And it's just a really good way to de-stress or cure boredom, if you're really tense after, a long day of school and a long day of doing your work.
All right, to sum everything up, the internet does have its drawbacks, but it also has its advantages, and I feel that used properly, the internet's advantages really do outweigh the drawbacks. And parents and students, there exists a gap regarding use of the internet, and so what we want to do today is educate parents on the internet, on the different aspects of the internet, so that the parents will have the knowledge necessary to be able to properly communicate with their teens, to nurture a healthy relationship between the two parties, so that the two parties can really come to terms together regarding the use of the internet.
And I just really want to emphasize that respect is very important. Like, parents should respect their teens, what they're doing on the computer. Don't ask them every 5 seconds, what are you doing? What are you doing? But at the same time, it's very important for teens to respect their parents and the guidelines they set, especially if you work together with them to set these guidelines.
So like Jennifer and Jerry said, the internet does have its pros, like being able to do homework or do some research, but it also has some cons, like procrastination, which is a big one. But if you think about it, you can work to get rid of these things. Like with the proper set of guidelines, you can set up a way to avoid procrastination and things like that. So next, I would like to introduce Nick and Jesse, who will be talking about video games.
Hi, my name is Nick, and I'm a senior at Leland, and obviously I am overdressed.
Hello, and I'm Jesse, and I'm a sophomore at Leland.
Alright, so today we'll be talking about video games. Now the first, I would like to give a little roadmap as to what we're going to talk about today. So first we're going to talk about different types of video games. Obviously, no, we're not going to talk about all of them. Now, another one that we'll talk about is the definition of video game addiction. And third, ways to solve conflicts between teens and parents when video games come into play. So first, we're going to talk about the different types of video games. Now, this is a list of 4 main genres. Now, this isn't all of the genres of video games. Obviously, there are probably hundreds of them. But first, I'd like to talk about role-playing games. Now, role-playing games, or RPGs, are usually games where the player gets to embody one of another character and gets to go on their adventure in their own little world, and just the main overarching story is basically the entire game. Now, the next type of game is a first-person shooter, or FPS. These games are usually played online. There are several single-player games for first-person shooters. Now, these games are really simple in terms that all you need to do is kill the other side. Yes, it sounds brutal, and unfortunately sometimes it is. So examples of these are Battlefield 3 and Modern Warfare 3. Now, note that these games are usually rated M for mature, which is you need to be 18 or older to purchase this game, one of these games. Now, another type is Massive Multiplayer Online, or MMO. Now, an MMO is essentially an RPG game, except you're interacting with other players online. Now, the interesting characteristic about MMOs is that usually you have to pay a monthly fee to play after paying a base fee. So examples of these would be World of Warcraft and League of Legends. Now, some of these games are also free to play, which League of Legends are, so that essentially means that it's free to download and it's free to play. Now, the fourth type is a simulation game, in which you're basically simulating activities that you wouldn't usually normally be able to do, like Need for Speed, in which you can go down like Almaden Expressway or Highway 85 in a Lamborghini going about 120 miles per hour. And other games such as family games like Monopoly or Life, which I find actually are pretty fun.
Alright, so I'm sure parents often wonder why their teens play video games. And there's no real answer, but some ideas are that first off, it helps relieve stress. Because I know that many teens these days are very stressed out from many things, including like high expectations from parents, or maintaining a good GPA, getting into a good college. And video games also help escape from reality. When you play a video game, instead of focusing on your own problems, you just focus on the video game. It's also a good point, is that because video games are just fun. And that leads us to our positive side effects. So video games help improve your dexterity and reflexes, especially using joysticks and mouse and keyboard. It improves your hand-eye coordination, which you can use in many other things other than video games. And video games also improve your problem-solving skills, because there's often many problems in a video game, and in order to solve those problems, you have to come up with many different ways, and that helps improve your problem-solving skills. And it also gives you a better goal-oriented mindset, because there's often a mission you have to try to accomplish in a game, and in order to accomplish that game, accomplish the mission, you focus more on it, and that can also be applied in real life. And video games help you experience failure, because sometimes you don't always succeed, and when you don't succeed, you try to look back and you see what you did wrong, and you try to fix that and you try to do it correctly next time. And music articles show that playing action games actually help increase focus and relieve stress. And the negative side effects of video games are that it decreases focus from academics. Because usually when you get addicted to a video game, all you can think about or talk about is that one game. And it not only decreases focus from your academics, it also decreases focus from whatever else you're trying to accomplish. And video games also take a lot of time.
So what is video game addiction? Now, in the survey that we sent out to the teens and parents, we asked that one simple question. We asked them to define it in their own words. Now, obviously, we can't write down every single response because there were countless responses, but we sort of paraphrased the consensus of their answers. And they define video game addiction as when a person is unable to stay away from video games for a prolonged period of time. So it's a really hard fact or sort of concept to put into words, but I can provide an example for you. Now, this is very personal, and it sort of makes me a little sad because I can't believe that I actually did this. So what happened was during my sophomore winter break, so right after finals, my parents got me a video game called Call of Duty Black Ops. For those of you who play in the Call of Duty franchise know what it is. So what happened was that every morning for 2 weeks, 14 days, I would hop out of bed at 10 a.m. because that's when I woke up. I would go downstairs and start playing. And I would play and play and play and play until about 12 a.m. the next day. So obviously there were some breaks where I ate some lunch, ate some like microwavable lunch, helped my mom cook some dinner, take out the trash, and I just sat. But other than that, I just sat there for 10 to 12 hours, and I just got fat. It was just not healthy, and it was obviously not something that I would do again. So that obviously is what video game addiction was to me. I was so addicted I couldn't stray away. So essentially this is what I was. I was a little bunny sitting there on the couch just playing games. And obviously that's not a pretty picture when you see that bunny playing for 10 to 12 hours every day for 2 weeks. Now let's move on to what parents think of video game addiction. Now, like I said before, we sent out a survey to parents as well, and we asked the exact same question. And their consensus was video game addiction is when video games interfere with school or academic work. Now, obviously, that means that it takes up too much time. The parents feel that teens don't spend enough time on academics, working on projects or working on grades, or just wasting time that could be, used for exercising or socializing with friends. And so that's where the conflict comes in. The conflict is a disagreement over time spent playing in video games. So it's very common in households. I had it myself. My parents obviously were very upset with me after I played for 10 to 12 hours every day. So what they did was they got really angry at me and they took away my controllers. I couldn't play. Like I could look at the TV and the console, but I couldn't do anything with it. So obviously, it made me really angry. And there was a lot of I yelled and I screamed, and both my parents were yelling and screaming at each other. So obviously, it wasn't like a pretty sight or like a pretty scene to be a part of. So that's what we're going to address in the next section. We're going to give you guys some tips or possible scenarios that could possibly alleviate those arguments.
Alright, so in order to avoid the conflict between parents and teens, came up with some suggestions here. And the first one is that you can implement a simple reward-based system. This basically means that if your teen, for example, finishes their homework, they can play 1 hour to 2 hours on weekdays and maybe 3 hours over the weekend. And the next one is that you can create a time slot in which teens can play. This might mean that they can play between, for example, 4 to 6 on a weekday and maybe in the mornings on a weekend.
Right. So obviously, with these two certain scenarios or solutions, what must happen in order for both of these to work is to have both the teens and the parents to be responsible to each other and accountable for each other. So for parents, that means if you wanted to implement, say, a time slot, and you give them, let's say, an hour to play, but instead you say, obviously, what happened to me was that my parents would always say, "Oh, you've been playing for an hour," but instead I had only been playing for like 30 minutes. So obviously, there's a time discrepancy, and parents need to be respectful of how long a person plays. Let's say if you agree to an hour, then give them an hour. And also for teens, it's also on you guys too, because teens must do their homework diligently in order to get those video game privileges, as well as when that hour mark hits, you turn off the console or game. So that means basically, if you agree to 60 minutes, you only get 60 minutes or less. And so if you're in the middle of a game, you have to turn it off. All right. So the next point that I would want to make is that maybe parents could play video games with their teens. I know it sounds like it's such a radical idea, but yeah. It's really radical, huh? But I actually had a friend of mine who played first-person shooter games with his dad, and they found that time not only to just like have fun together, but they found that time to bond. They basically became a little bit more connected to each other. And I'm not saying that it will happen, but I'm saying that there will be a strong chance that you'll get to know your teen better, and you'll be able to understand. Wow, maybe games are pretty fun, but like I said, I'm not guaranteed. And so one last hint that I would like to give you guys before we step off the stage here is that I would advise against not stopping your teen from playing video games altogether. Obviously, that happened to me in the example that I shared with you guys, and that causes a lot of arguments. I know it's hard for parents to say. For parents to see their teens wasting their time away at video games, but I think, in my opinion, that a gradual reduction in video game time will help the addiction go away. And in my own experience, that I actually burned out at video games, so I don't play video games that much anymore. So one other thing you guys could do is possibly not buy any more video games. Just a suggestion. All right. So with that, I will turn the mic to Victor.
Video games are fun. You can't really deny them. But you also can't deny that they're very time-consuming. They can be very distracting. I really liked what Nick said about playing with your parents. Because when parents play with their teens, not only are they having bonding time, they're also like when they stop, they're sending a signal to their team. They're like, I'm done playing, maybe you should stop too. And that can be a really nice conflict-less way to end that video game playing session. But when